Well, hello everyone. My name is Lorraine Lally and I'm the co-chair of the IBE youth team, myself and Scarlett Page. Unfortunately, Scarlett can't be here today, but she does send all her best wishes and she wants to thank everyone who put in such fabulous Hear My Story videos for us today. This session is by far my favourite session. I'm a little biased, but without people with epilepsy, the IBE wouldn't be here, neither would the ILAE. People with epilepsy are central to dealing with the issues that we deal with every day and to coming up with our own solutions and our own answers. Empowering youth to raise their voices is something we're all very passionate about in the youth team. And the first session that we're going to, or the first item on the agenda for this session, it involves my fellow, I suppose, co-chair for the next session, Gus, who is going to discuss some of the results from a pregnancy survey that was done for women with epilepsy, which is also something that members of the IB youth team did support, and they also put it out there. So we got responses from countries all over the EU, which was great, and beyond. So I'm just going to hand over to Gus now. I don't see him there on the screen, but I know he's here somewhere.
I'm here. I'm here. Yep.
Okay. Would you like to just begin by telling them a bit about the survey, Gus? And
yes.
give them a bit of background.
Thank you, Lorraine. The IBE is committed to conduct a number of projects that will meet the needs of people with epilepsy and their families and has a global perspective. The Pregnancy Toolkit is one such project. And I've personally been involved in understanding the neurodevelopmental effects of anti-epileptic drugs on the unborn child for the last 15 years. So this is a project that I'm personally delighted to be involved in. And it was a project that brought together both the research group and our group and the executive. And I have to say, Lorraine, without the youth group, I don't think we'd have been as successful as we have been. So I'm delighted that we have this collaboration, and I suspect it's going to be one of many projects that we're going to do. I'm not going to say too much about the actual pregnancy project toolkit, because I want actually to show you the video, which I think will be far more comprehensive and far more cohesive than I can say. So if we ask Anne, she'll kindly, I'm sure, play it for us.
Having a baby is a really exciting time for women. For most women, it brings a time of wonderment, anticipation, and joy. But for women with epilepsy, becoming pregnant and having a baby is a little more complicated, although most women with epilepsy will have successful pregnancies and deliver healthy babies. Key to a healthy pregnancy and safe delivery is knowledge and early preparation. It is really important that information about the issues around epilepsy and pregnancy are known by all women who might be considering having a baby. Pre-planning is vital to ensure that medication is right and that they are fully aware of all the risks that they might face so these can be avoided. But not every woman wants to have a family. For those who are not yet ready to have a baby or who decide against having a family altogether, there is also the need to be knowledgeable about epilepsy and contraception. Because this is such an important, wide-ranging topic, IBE is creating an epilepsy and pregnancy toolkit as a guide for all women with epilepsy of childbearing age, whether or not a future pregnancy is being considered. To help us identify the type of information that women want to receive and the gaps that currently exist in that information, we undertook a survey in Europe to understand the experience of women with epilepsy, their information needs, the support available to them, and how information affected their decisions. Almost 900 women from right across Europe helped us by completing our survey. Thank you to everyone who took part. The survey responses gave us some very important information, and we found that a high number of women are not receiving information about epilepsy and contraception, or about planning a pregnancy. The need for better, more accurate, appropriate, and more dependable support was highlighted. The survey has been carefully reviewed and a detailed report is available from the IBE website. We have also prepared a shorter, more user-friendly summary report, which is available in English at present, but which we will have in a number of other languages within the next few months. With the information gained from our survey, we are now able to create a toolkit that addresses the knowledge gaps and the areas of most interest to those with epilepsy. The information provided will also help us to develop support tools to help people with epilepsy to have the confidence to talk with their medical care providers so that they can get the medical support and advice they need. The toolkit will have its own website and will be in English first, but with other languages coming later. It will be bursting with information. It'll have digital brochures, frequently asked questions documents, educational videos, and conversation guides to support conversations with medical providers. It will be easy to use and have sections for those who are thinking of having a family, as well as those who aren't. A section for the medical professional is also planned, which will be aimed at helping them in knowing how best to discuss issues around epilepsy, contraception, and pregnancy with their patients from the time they reach childbearing age and long before any pregnancy is being considered.
Well, the video, as you can see, breaks down exactly what we aim to do. And Gus, we were delighted to support and help in any way we could. Women, thank God, are having babies in every continent on the planet. So we hope that the research that we do develop, even though it is on one continent at the moment, that it will support and help research around the world, and that it'll help grow the knowledge base for people dealing with women with epilepsy so that it's not as frightening. Although I think anyone who's pregnant, it's usually a frightening experience anyway for men and women. So for all those people out there who contributed, we're very grateful. Gus, just before we move on, is there anything that you'd like to say about the project itself, and is there anything you'd like to see done in the future? Where do you think we'll go from here?
Well, first of all, Lorraine, it's been a really exciting project, and we're starting to see the fruits from our labour. What I would like to see is that we can roll out this program and the toolkit when it's finally developed to every continent, because there won't be one single continent without a woman with epilepsy who has to think about the issues of pregnancy. And I'd like the IBE to be one of the first sources of valuable and reliable and valid information for a woman who's deciding or not to have children. And that is our aim, and that is what we'll be working towards probably over the next 5 years. So I'm sure you can ask me the same questions about how we're getting on with the epilepsy project in 5 years' time, because I'm sure we'll still be focused on it.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. We're going to move on now, on time, I might add, to the Golden Light section of this afternoon. And for those of you who don't know what the Golden Lights are, the Golden Light is an award that's given by IBE to recognise extraordinary people who have been advocates in the community around the world, regionally, nationally, internationally, in informing others about epilepsy and in advocating for issues that impact people with epilepsy. So the Golden Lights are a stream of very gifted and talented individuals. And I would like you to listen to their stories today and imagine each of them, each individual, a special, gifted, talented person who is an entrepreneur, a brother, a sister, somebody who has taken the time to contribute and to get their story out there. And they've helped support others by doing that, because it's very important with epilepsy. It can be a very individual condition, and it can be a very lonely condition. The stigma is still there, as we're all aware. And through the Golden Lights Awards, we're breaking down stigma, we're sharing stories, and we are supporting each other and creating a network of people with epilepsy who are holding us all together. And I think that is what we need, really. You do need that support and that comfort, because very often it can feel as if you have little or no control, and to know that others are there for you is so important. I'm going to now ask Elizabeth to show the video of the 19 recipients. Well, for those of you who just saw the videos of the nominees, I'm sure you're blown away. It's like a United Nations of epilepsy advocates. They're all truly extraordinary, and we would like to thank the organisations that nominated them, and we would also like to thank them for what they've done for people with epilepsy all over the world. I couldn't watch the video without getting emotional. So I turned off the camera because I knew it would. Just seeing the success and seeing the hard work and dedication truly moves you. And the next part of our session for today is we're going to move on to hearing the stories of some of the winners. That they have sent in videos to us, and they would like to have maybe a little bit more time with you this afternoon to share their stories. And their stories are, as I mentioned, all unique and all very, very special. The first speaker that we have is a gifted, talented young man from Zambia, and bright Bwalya. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly now. You will have seen him there previously on the video. Is a talented and gifted computer programmer, and he developed an app that was designed to support people with epilepsy. And he has used his knowledge, his training, his skills, his expertise to contribute for others with epilepsy. And he defines himself and sees himself as an epilepsy advocate, but also as a mental health advocate, which I think is also very important, because for many people with epilepsy, there is a very high rate of depression, and it can even be a side effect of the medication. So I would say that the work that's been undertaken by this talented and gifted advocate is very welcome by all of us in the epilepsy community. And we can only hope that he continues to invent and create as much as he can. One thing that he did say when he was being nominated and he was telling his story, one phrase that stuck with me was this idea that you don't look like the kind of person who'd have epilepsy. And the truth is that epilepsy is a hidden disability. So you look at somebody and it's not completely obvious that they have epilepsy, or if they have focal seizures, it might not be a full tonic-clonic. So people don't realize the person has epilepsy and that they didn't hear what you said for the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So for everyone out there, I would like you all to join in listening to this wonderful story from this gifted and talented young man. And hopefully someday I will get to meet all of these people in person. But for today, we have a video from Bright to share with you all.
Hello everyone, my name is Bwalya. I am a software engineer and a user interface designer for software, obviously. I also do some advocacy works in epilepsy through hospital visits, write-ups on social media platforms, and radio and TV interviews as well. All right, so after I discovered I had epilepsy in university, a lot of things had changed about my life. I was no longer the same Bright that I remember before 2016. This time my social life had taken a sudden turn, and I found it very hard to mingle with my friends, and even they found it very hard to mingle with my life. Academically speaking, a lot had changed as well. I found it very hard to study, very hard to remember what I was studying, and even dedicated time to study became a bit of a challenge because the medication I was taking had certain effects. On some days it would bring some really, really bad drowsiness, and on other days I would be up with no sleep whatsoever. And the other challenges were with my lecturers. They found it very hard to believe that I was actually sick or I had a certain condition. Even though I brought paperwork from medical personnel, they couldn't believe that I had something, and so this is why I was missing certain classes and whatnot. So I was held back from presenting my dissertation along with my other friends. So I was pushed back. My friends graduated, I had to stay back, pleading with the administration to allow me to present my dissertation. As life progressed, more challenges became imminent in my life. I remember being robbed after having a seizure, trying to run away from a rainstorm. The other time I had a seizure on a bus and I woke up and I was alone. Everybody ran away thinking I was a demon-possessed person doing their thing. The other time I had a seizure on a bus and I found myself at a bus stop I could not even recognize, and I had to start trading my way back home. So the journey hasn't been all bad. In university, when I was asked to work on a certain project by my supervisor, I decided to cast it aside and work on an application that was going to help people living with epilepsy. And so Seizure Assistant was born, an application that I wanted to make to ensure that when a person suffers a seizure, they're able to get the help that they need immediately. I wanted it to work with a digital wristband like this, where if my heart rate goes to a certain point, the wristband notifies the phone and the phone sends a message to my next of kin or whoever that I'm having a seizure, and they will provide the help I need to me. So the dissertation was done. I changed cities and the application was put on hold for a bit. Of course, my struggles continued here and there, but after this one hospital visit where I looked at my fellow epileptics who looked very helpless, I realized there was need for the application that I had been working on, and so I put it out of the dust and started working on it, researching more and more, thinking of what features could be added on the application to help people. And so I added a feature for support groups on the platform, and another platform where people can share their common problems and ask questions, either anonymously or, if they want, with their names there, because many people are still not ready to come out and talk about their condition. So it is a great honor to be given an opportunity to extend my reach through the IBE and even the local association. And to those that are standing like me, trying to help people living with this condition, I salute you. It's a great work that you're doing, and many need this help that we're giving, and many need that courage that we're giving. And to those that are listening to me directly right now, I'd just like to say, indeed, Bright is here to shine the light, and he shall continue to do so as long as his name remains Bright.
Well, Bright, I think we all salute you anyway. That was truly amazing. A software engineer, and what he has created is truly fantastic. And it's interesting that he's here today speaking to all of us, and that we had a session before this in relation to speaking to funders, because I think if he had to do an elevator pitch right now for funding, I'm pretty sure he would get it. So a very gifted individual, and I really do believe that his work will continue, and we're very, very delighted to have him here today with us with his video. We're going to deal with questions and answers at the end. I meant to say that at the beginning, but the long line of speakers, I think, will leave you a little breathless because they're really inspiring. Our second video is from someone from a different part of the world, and again showing the global reach. The gentleman, the next speaker, is from Iran, and similar to myself, he's a lawyer, and he has a similar interest to myself as well in refugee law and constitutional law. And I was very impressed to see actually that he did a Master's of Law in Tehran University in 2020. And as somebody who's done 2 masters, I'm not sure why, but I would commend him for doing it, because it is hard work. And his academic achievements and his personal achievements and his professional achievements are again to be celebrated. And you're going to hear this throughout the session today, but I very much like to see people for their individual strengths and successes and to see their dreams achieved. And I think that it's very, very important that we never limit ourselves or stop dreaming and stop hoping. So I think you're going to get a lot of hope from today's session. The next speaker, as I mentioned, his name is Mohsen. I'm not going to pronounce this correctly now, and I apologize for that in advance. Mohsen Fariborzi, and I apologize in advance if I've mispronounced your name. And Mohsen's story in relation to epilepsy begins from when he was a child, and unfortunately he had the misfortune of being born with a blood condition that was fixed as a result of a bone marrow transfusion. But after having the bone marrow transfusion, as a result of surgical intervention, he developed epilepsy. And his story is from childhood into adulthood. And I'm sure he's going to say this in his video, but you could see that impact of epilepsy throughout the lifetime for people, and the support of his family and the support he seems to have got in the community is visible, and you can hear it in the video that you're now going to see. So I'm going to welcome our second wonderful speaker, Mohsen, to take the stage and to, I'm sure, marvel us all. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Mohsen Fariborzi. I was born in 1987 in Shiraz, one of the biggest cities in Iran. After 2 years, when I was a child, my parents understood that I didn't have enough energy to do my activities. So they decided to do anything like many tests, visit many physicians, and anything that is necessary. After that, the doctors concluded that I had a thalassemia major. Every month, I had at least 2 blood transfusions, and to eliminate excess iron, I should use a differexamine infusions pump that put on my tummy on the night and in my sleep time. Imagine that you were in age that needed freedom to do any activity that you like it, but the pump on your tummy prevented. So it is clear that you couldn't enjoy your life. 8 years later, I had bone marrow transplant surgery, which was fortunately successful. In 2002, one morning, when I would like to get up, my left hand started jerking. I tried hard to stop it, but I couldn't, because it had a life of its own. I went to hospital and my doctors told me this is epilepsy, which was the beginning of what has been 19 years long affair. As my society, maybe many other societies, lack sufficient information about epilepsy, and I'm embarrassed to speak about it, so I try to deny everything that no one would notice to my illness. Few years later, I changed my mind. I realized that denying disease is just stressful without any advantage. So it's better to talk about it and live like other ones. Therefore, as I like to be a judge, lawyer, or diplomat, I studied hard and passed my exam so well. After you finish high school in my country, if you want to look at university, you must pass the exam that's called concours. Concours is so hard because many candidates want to get a good grade and be university student. But our university doesn't have enough capacity for all of them. So you must study hard and try without any waste time. The day that I took this exam, after I answered just 2 questions, I had a seizure. But I managed to get a good grade and was successful, fortunately. 4 years later, I graduated and took bachelor's degree. Then, as I like to continue my lessons, I had to participate again for the second time to get a master's degree. At this time, I was successfully accepted at the University of Tehran, the best university of Iran. During these 19 years, I have many drugs and many seizures, maybe more than 1,000, but none couldn't obstacle to progress. At this moment, I'm a member of Institute of Public Law Studies, University of Tehran, a member of Iranian Constitutional Law Association, a member of Iranian Association of Administrative Law, and so on. All of these success is indicative that epilepsy isn't a limitation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Mohsen. I was going to say that it was interesting that he raised the issue in relation to denying epilepsy, because very often when you speak to somebody with epilepsy, people who haven't been to a support group meeting or people who don't talk about their epilepsy, I often think they go through the 5 stages of grief. They go through the denial and the anger and a bit of the depression until they get to the acceptance. And the best thing to do if you do meet somebody who hasn't really discussed their epilepsy is to probably advise them to consider talking about it with somebody, because living with epilepsy and trying to keep it secret is not only putting yourself at risk, but also I think denying yourself an opportunity at a full life, because when you do tell people and you do seek support, you do get it. And I would say that we can see that today with some of the Golden Lights. You're going to see some more inspirational stories where they have actually decided that they're going to take up a role and become a support for somebody with epilepsy. And that is definitely true of our next speaker, who saw a need for a group for young people with epilepsy to come together and to get support from their peers. And the next recipient that we're going to be, I suppose, watching and listening to is Lynna Held. And she is, I suppose, inspirational and motivating in that she did found the Young German Epilepsy Association, and that she saw there was a need for young people to have a safe space to talk about and discuss their epilepsy. And she was very much focused on creating safe places in all parts of your life, so at home and in the community, by educating other people and empowering young people to talk about their epilepsy. And by talking about it, then telling people what to do if you have a seizure, telling people, you know, this is what you can do to support yourself and sustain yourself. Again, Lynna has been instrumental in her own country in breaking down the stigma and breaking down the barriers for people, because she has reached out the hand of friendship to a lot of young people with epilepsy. And without further ado, I'm going to put on Lynna's video, but I would say that for anyone out there who hasn't been to a support group meeting, that it's definitely something worth considering, and it's definitely a great support. And I attend support group meetings myself and I wouldn't miss them. So I would just, as you're watching the video, what Lynna is doing is life-changing for everyone who goes to the support group meetings and also for their family members. Without further ado, the wonderful Elizabeth is going to, or Anne is going to put on the video from Lynna.
Dear IBE community, dear friends and family, first of all, I would like to thank you all and tell you how honored I feel to be receiving this prize. The motivation for founding the Junge.de German Epilepsy Association is closely linked to my life story. I, Lynna Held, am 26 years old and study educational science in Göttingen, Germany. I was diagnosed with epilepsy 4 years ago, especially from the early days, when I had to come to terms with the new situation and the attached consequences. I encountered many lasting and shaping experiences. I quickly learned that it was of considerable importance to involve those around me in relation to my illness and to educate them on how to react if I had a seizure. Would they know how to react if I just fell over and started convulsing? You might know how to react if someone had an acute epileptic seizure. Well, in this case, if I were to have a seizure in your presence, you would be an enormously important person to me, as you could help appropriately. However, from my personal experiences, I found that a large group of the population is unclear about what an educated response is in relation to an epileptic seizure. For this reason, I educated my entire environment about how and what to look out for in epileptic seizures. Since then, I feel much safer. In the course of these discussions, I became aware of how many prejudice and also reservation still exists towards people affected by epilepsy. In addition, at the beginning of the illness, I was looking for an exchange of ideas and stories with other people affected, but it was not possible for me to find platforms, self-help groups, or other exchange possibilities for young people. There were contact points, of course, but they were focused around advanced age groups. For me, however, there were other challenges. Especially at a young age, a chronic disease is a big challenge and can present other obstacles than at an older age. The incident led to the founding of the Junge.de at the beginning of 2019, a self-help group for young people, and later on, with a combined strength of the Young Self-Help Group to a film campaign, which aims at raising awareness about epilepsy. The self-help group is aimed at people with epilepsy, between the age of 16 and 35, who would like to talk about their condition with others of the same age, or who would also like to change something in the way society perceives them. We, the young people, come from all over Germany, meet regularly, at the moment, of course, on Zoom, and twice a year in person. Due to Corona and the challenges that came with it, we moved our current project to Zoom. With a project called Film Up, we create short explanatory videos on the topic of epilepsy in everyday life. These videos cover various topics in which we educate and inform about the topic of epilepsy. The videos are aimed at people with epilepsy, interested people, and also family members of people with epilepsy. Well, with the videos, we hope to reduce prejudice, educate and especially inform about seizures and first aid in the event of a seizure, and thus guarantee better first aid for those affected in an emergency and take away the public's fear of contact. Furthermore, barriers towards epilepsy are to be broken down and public awareness is to be promoted. The aim of a self-help group is not only to provide information about epilepsy, but also to establish contact between people affected. Further projects are planned for the future with the aim of further informing and raising awareness about the topic. Only through continuous exchange between affected persons and with the public can we reduce the stigmatization of the topic and counteract the illness by educating people about what to do in an emergency, and by promoting acceptance in society, thus making a small contribution to the quality of life of all people affected. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you, Lynna. I think if we were in person right now, I think each of these individuals would be getting a standing ovation. Lynna's video, as you saw, is truly inspiring. And again, we would say supporting and improving the quality of life for people with epilepsy, in particular young people. I do know that earlier there was special mention of adolescents and teenagers with epilepsy, and sometimes that there's a focus on adults and a focus on children, and adolescents are at times not given the voice or the space that they may need to be heard. And the reason that I'm raising this now is because of our next speaker, who is 17 years old. And our next speaker comes from Brazil, and she is an extraordinary young woman, as you're going to see. But her epilepsy began in adolescence. She's 17 now, and it began a few years ago. I think she was 13 when it began. And she seems to be taking it in her stride, which is great to see. And sometimes with adolescents and teenagers, and I have very fond memories myself of never wanting to tell anybody I had epilepsy, because you're at that age where you're kind of hoping you're going to meet a boyfriend or, you know, go out with somebody for the first time, and you don't want to mention the epilepsy. Nobody wants to mention the epilepsy. But as Lynna was saying earlier there, it's important people know what to do if something happens. And as somebody who once gave a black eye to somebody as a result of a sleep seizure, I would say that the boyfriend in question, in fairness, took it in his stride, and he was more worried for me than himself. But I would say that seizure first aid is important. And if you're going to have friends and relationships, people, again, who do care about you and love you will take you with your epilepsy and will accept you, hopefully. And that is what we're really hoping for, is for that social inclusion. So without further ado, I'm going to get the video from Luiza, which is truly lovely. And I would say that we would love to see more young people submitting videos, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, because it would be great to see them here with us. Without further ado, Luiza Gatto from Brazil.
Hi guys, how are you? My name is Luiza Oliveira Gatto. I'm 17 years old. I'm a student and Brazilian. And now I will tell my story. My epilepsy started about 4 years ago with absence seizures. When the seizures became more frequent, I went to a neurologist. At the beginning, he was not sure if I had epilepsy or just anxiety. He asked me to do a couple of exams. I was having some fainting spells, but my parents and I told it was just low pressure. In 2019 January, I had my first convulsion that made me go straight to the hospital. I was hospitalized for 5 days in the children's ICU, where I did many exams. I can remember my hospitals at time because of the strong medicines I was taking. The only few things I can remember of are the nurses who took care of me with great care and patience, the nutritionist from the hospital asking about my favorite foods, and my family members coming to visit me. I am very grateful to have those people in my life that are so caring and take so good care of me. At the moment, we had no more doubts that I had epilepsy. When I found out, it was a big shock. And since the subject is still not talked about because of the prejudice over the disease, I thought my life was over. I began to research about the disease and about people who also had it. And on YouTube, I found some videos of doctors explaining about the disease. Therefore, most of the videos were using a lot of medical terms, making it harder to understand. I couldn't find what I was actually looking for. I just wanted to know, in a common way, what having epilepsy really means. How does the person feel? What are the consequences of a seizure? I remember thinking, just like me, There are thousands of people that need help. So why don't I make a video about it? Being such a communicative and expressive person made me develop my interest in video making. I talking about the idea with my family, but even with their support, the plan was put aside. Sometimes later, my boyfriend and my sister started asking me daily to record a video. Both of them also told the information was important. After a few months, I finally recorded the video and posted it on my YouTube channel. Everyone I knew and even people I didn't know were impacted by my video. I started receiving many thank you messages. Also, a lot of people started sharing their own stories with me, along the constant expression of gratitude. It's hard to describe how motivated and happy I was. My boyfriend, seeing this, started spreading my work to several epilepsy centers that he had found on Instagram and ended up sending a message to ABE, Brazilian Epilepsy Association. First, the association called me to record an episode of a program. After that, we recorded a podcast. After all those jobs, they invited me to do a performance, a simulation of a seizure at the subway. At the end of the day, I ended up staying and being part of many their projects. Today, I'm proud to say that I am part of the ABE. Nowadays, I still post about epilepsy on my YouTube and Instagram account. I lead a youth group with epilepsy and present some programs and meetings of people with epilepsy. I am happy to make such a difference spreading awareness around the subject of epilepsy. The fight to overcome the prejudice is more than necessary, so we can show people that there is no reason to be scared of. I want to say, for the people with epilepsy, be brave and fight for our rights.
That was wonderful, as with all the other presentations were. And Luiza finished on a very nice note, which is be brave, and again, fighting for rights, which has been a theme throughout the day. I think human rights and equality for access for services and medications and services. And I can only hope that we see more young people like Luiza, because it's great to see it. It's very refreshing. And the support that she got from her family and her friends and her boyfriend is also worth noting, because it is very important for people with epilepsy to have that support in their lives. The videos, as you can see today, are magnificent, and it's difficult at times to fully convey the impact that they have on anyone with epilepsy, because we love to hear people with epilepsy speaking. The next speaker that we have is from, again, another part of the world, from the North American side of things. And Megan Cassidy is no stranger to the area of epilepsy or to advocacy, and she is responsible for founding and developing and growing the International Purple Day that occurs annually. And her work began in 2008, which is more than a decade ago. So Megan is not only an advocate today or yesterday, but she's been an advocate for more than a decade in the area of epilepsy. And again, she seems to have taken great empowerment and strength from the work that she's done. And I know that in my own country, in Ireland, we've seen the growth of Purple Day annually. And I think this year we had as many as 30 national monuments go purple, and national institutions, including 2 of the third level institutions in my own town, went purple out of respect for the day. When asked if they would consider doing it, the automatic response was yes, of course we will support. Of course, we want to raise awareness, and of course, we want students to know that we support people with epilepsy at third level. So Megan is responsible for raising awareness around the world, and she also engages in writing blogs and in other social media forums. So that I think that for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of hearing Megan speak, the video will be a treat. But I would also say that if you ever think of promoting Purple Day or you want to grow it, Megan would be delighted to hear from you and delighted to assist you and support you in any way she can. And it's great to see that the wave of purple seems to have covered the globe. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Megan, who seems to have single-handedly created a day for all of us with epilepsy, and again remembering some of those who are no longer with us as a result of their epilepsy. So with Purple Day as well, I've had people say to me that it was an opportunity to remember a brother or a sister. So without further ado, Megan, another one of our Golden Light recipients.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassidy Megan. I'm the founder of Purple Day. And I first want to start off by saying a huge thank you to the IBE for choosing me to be the North American recipient of the Golden Light Awards, and for everyone that nominated me, a huge thank you. I'd also like to congratulate all my fellow recipients, and I'm truly honored to be receiving this award with you and to be included in such an amazing, strong group of advocates. A bit about me: I was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 7. I felt really scared and alone because I had no one else who had it. I hid it for a while. In grade 2, the Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes came to my class to do a presentation. When I seen how good my friends are being and wanted to learn more, that ultimately gave me the courage to speak out and tell them. The following year, in 2008, I started Purple Day. I started with just my school and my community, and the Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes came to an assembly, and then they helped me take it across Canada. They joined on with me, Purple Day, and the following year in 2009, we had our sights set big, and the Needed Coffin Foundation in the States joined us, and together, me, myself, the Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes, and Needed Coffin Foundation, along with advocates, businesses, schools from all over the world, took it worldwide, and Purple Day is now celebrated every year on March 26th globally. In 2018, it was celebrated by NASA and all through the International Space Station. Since starting Purple Day, I've seen so many changes. People speaking out more education, more awareness, more socially acceptable. But I've also seen so much stigma and discrimination. When I first started talking about it, I got messages, people asking my parents to send me to the church to rid me of my demons. I got, oh, well, at least you don't have the bad type. But that just tells us that there's still so much more work that needs to be done, and so much awareness that has to happen. And we can do that. We are doing that. We have to talk about seizures, seizure first aid, suit up, the mental health toll it takes on us, cost of meds, and all the aspects of living with epilepsy. The stories I hear when I work with epilepsy, I love, because although some are sad and some are great, and both inspire me to continue my work with Purple Day, because the sad ones help me that drive to fight for them and fight with them. And the joy ones make me want to celebrate with them. It inspires me to continue advocating with people with epilepsy and for people with epilepsy. All of this shows me that working together, we can and we will continue to make this change. Just look at all these amazing advocates here today and the work that they have done. I know together we will make the world a better and kinder, safer place for those living with epilepsy and everyone. I want to thank my family and friends for the continued support I wouldn't be where I am today without them. And I want to thank all of my global partners, the Kauffman Foundation, Epilepsy Association of the Maritimes, for believing in me and my vision with Purple Day, and for all their support. And for everyone here today, all the Purple Day ambassadors, warriors, for sharing their stories and not giving up. And the fellow recipients here, you guys are amazing, and I can't wait to hear the rest of you guys' stories. I look forward to working with all of you guys. Again, thank you for nominating me. You guys are amazing. Have a great night. Thank you.
Well, I just want to make a slight correction. Cassidy, Megan, unfortunately, I have a friend named Megan Cassidy, and for some reason I do that sometimes. I apologize, Cassidy. So sorry. Our wonderful Canadian speaker who was just took the stage there with Purple Day, and she managed to even involve NASA, which I thought was a real achievement. The next thing, the White House will be going purple. We can hope, but we never know. I would like to echo the sentiments that were heard there at the end. Everyone here is amazing and gifted, and you've all contributed in your own way. For the question and answer session at the end, we're now wondering if some of the winners, such as Cassidy, if she would be interested in joining me at the end for some questions and answers, she can use the raise your hand function, or if any of the other nominated persons, Lynna Bright, Mohsen, and even the ones to come, so that the next Golden Light recipients who are coming, if they would like to take part, we would be very glad to have you at the end for a question and answer session, or maybe even to turn on your camera and take a bow, because we're very grateful today for everything you're doing for all of us. Your contributions are appreciated. Our next winner is from India, so we're really bouncing around the globe. This gentleman is from New Delhi, and you would have seen in one of the videos that was played at the beginning, in his marathon t-shirt, running ultra marathons, which I think is amazing in and of itself. So Vinay Jani from India, he was diagnosed with focal seizures due to a cyst in a part of his brain, and as a result of it, it had a big change to his life and an impact on his work and his lifestyle and in everything. And Vinay in particular would like to push the I suppose awareness of exercise and diet and lifestyle changes for people with epilepsy, to show that, you know, there is a role there for exercise and in healthy living to deal with your epilepsy and your seizures. Vinay has been very engaged and involved in raising awareness of the need for medications to be made available for children with epilepsy. And in 2021, he raised some funds for a child raise trust that would help to give medicines to underprivileged children with epilepsy. So again, that divide between certain countries and access to medication in some countries, which is not so good. But the Indian Epilepsy Society are delighted to have him as a member, and he's very active. And again, in the support groups and in raising awareness. Vinay, as our next speaker, will raise questions that may not have been raised already. But again, I would ask you all to take the time to listen to this wonderful speaker. And again, we thank him for his contribution, for everything he's doing in India. And we look forward to meeting him in person at some stage soon. So without further ado, we're going to play the next video.
Hi, I'm Vinay from Delhi, India. First of all, I would like to pay gratitude towards International Bureau for Epilepsy and my neurologist, Professor Manjari Tripathi. I'm self-sufficient, an ultra-randoner, a super randoner, a marathoner. I've also attempted Paris plus Paris in 2019. In July 2005, I was diagnosed with focal seizures due to a cyst in left temporal region of my brain. In December 2008, my seizures graduated to a generalized seizures, and I got hospitalized for a few days. At the time of discharge, my neurologist said, I'm prescribing you dosage of medication which is not as per your body weight. Now it's up to you whether you want to lose weight or you want to increase the dosage of your medication. Overthinking about epilepsy impacted my daily routine, lifestyle, and I gained weight. Slowly and gradually, I restarted workouts at the gym, keeping fitness at the priority. After living seizure-free life for 5 years, my neurologist decided to withdraw my medications. After 1 year, I had a reoccurrence, so I met my neurologist and he resumed my medications. This time, I preferred fitness along with precautions. So I informed my friends to keep an eye on me whenever I'm doing workouts. In 2015, I met trainer Pratham Verma and he asked me to join him for an outdoor cycling ride. I declined his offer considering outdoor cycling is risky for a person with epilepsy, but he assured me he will ride along with me. Later on, he added me to his cycling group where most of the riders used to do a format of endurance cycling known as brevet. I did my first brevet of 200 kilometers along with them in May 2016. Thereafter, participating and training for brevet became a routine. When I came back from Paris, I started running and signed up for a half marathon. After my half marathon, I met a blogger and marathoner, Tanya Agarwal. Meeting Tanya enlightened me that I should help other people in managing their epilepsy and to evolve them in any kind of fitness activity. But before taking any step further, I prefer to take an advice from my senior rider, General Anil Puri. He advised me to start writing motivational write-ups and blogs. In early year of 2020, my journey was published in some nationalized newspaper. And just a day before of my New Delhi marathon, I was felicitated by Sir Sachin Tendulkar. During lockdown, I started looking for NGOs who are working for people with epilepsy. And during Epilepsy Awareness Month, my blog was featured in Living Well with Epilepsy. And I shared the same with my neurologist, Professor Manjari Tripathi. And she advised me to be a patient speaker on a webinar with Sir John T. Rhodes, which was conducted by Indian Epilepsy Association. When government gave some relaxation in lockdown, most of the marathon went virtual way. And having experience of the same, I gave an input to Samman Association for virtual walkathon. During 50 million steps for epilepsy campaign, and they executed the walkathon in a very organized manner. Presently, I'm raising funds for an NGO through my participation in Tata Mumbai Marathon. And this fund will be utilized for underprivileged children with epilepsy. Endurance sports has taught me discipline, patience, hard work, learning from own failure. But interacting with so many people has taught me joy of giving. I conclude by saying that every person has two choices. One, to keep asking, why do I have epilepsy, and getting into negative. Second is to using a positive coping by evolving into any kind of physical activity and becoming self-sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. Just to follow from that video, it's interesting that he has mentioned the impact of the pandemic, and I know that for many people with epilepsy, the pandemic has been very, very difficult, and that they have found that access to exercise and access to services has been limited because of it. So it was interesting to hear that in that video that we just saw, and probably something to bear in mind, even when we saw the presentations this morning. The impact of COVID may not have been factored into some of those WHO targets and other things going forward. So definitely something to think about for people with epilepsy and for the advocacy work that we're going to need to do. The next Golden Light recipient is an individual from Taiwan, a young man who, as well as having epilepsy, decided to go down the road of studying medicine. So in some ways, his condition seems to have inspired him to pursue a career in the area. And his work in his own country in Taiwan has been continuing, and he has engaged in meetings with youths with epilepsy in his home country in November 2020. And I've no doubt that if the pandemic hadn't interrupted things, he probably would continue to, he's probably continuing the meetings online, but that he's also been invited by his state government to make contributions in relation to the United Nations Declaration on the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and that he was part of a group, a civil organizational group that would have made submissions in relation to compliance with the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Many countries, including my own country, is a signatory, and we do, all the national organizations make submissions, which is something else that can be done and is a wonderful form of advocacy as well. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Meng-Leo Chou to take the stage with his video, which is very animated and truly an accomplishment. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Meng-Leo Chou from Taiwan. It's really my great honor to be presented with the Golden Light Award, and furthermore, have this opportunity to deliver this speech, telling something about my life experiences with epilepsy to you. This is my personal profile. And this is how I met epilepsy in my life. I actually had noticed my interest in medicine since I was about 15 or 16 years old. It was when the first seizure came to my life. It was a generalized tonic-clonic seizure, preceded by bronchospasms for tens of seconds, which felt really like when you are drowning. What an unforgettable, fearful experience. Then it took about 1.5 years for me to find the adequate anti-seizure medications and the adequate dosage. Before it, seizure recurred about twice to thrice per month, all of which were GTC. They happened in school, in parties with friends, and in restaurants that no one came as well. 2 years later, I determined my mind to major in medicine in the university, partially due to interest and partially due to that I'd like to know more about the disease I had. After 7 years of studying and practicing, now I have chosen the road to get closer to the classic neurological disease. I now serve as a resident neurologist in a hospital in my hometown. I would call it a wonderful journey from being a patient to being a doctor of epilepsy. There are 3 reasons that I actually feel I'm blessed to have epilepsy in my life. First, I had passed through a long tunnel before I became able to maintain a positive attitude towards the disease I had. I used to consider it an unfair fact that I need to go through a longer path to reach the same goal with others. It's not bound to daily life. Sometimes I even find myself having less choices when I'm going to make big decisions in my life. However, after learning how to live with this disease for many years, I began to find some advantages I have over others. For example, I became a more careful person since I'm always under the threat of having seizure. I also get the hang of managing my physical status and leading a healthy life, even having one of the most stressful jobs. The second reason for feeling blessed is that I became not only a patient, but also a doctor of epilepsy. What an amazing destiny, isn't it? The dual identity helps me in the clinical work, since I could stay in the patient's shoes effortlessly. I experienced the side effects of anti-seizure medications, and I know exactly how fearful it is when seizures occur. I'm glad to share my experiences and thoughts on epilepsy with my patients, so they may open their heart to me. The third reason is that I found lots of youth partners in Taiwan who are willing to fight for the right of people with epilepsy together. I currently cooperate with some non-governmental organizations in Taiwan to be engaged in social activities. I'm quite a rookie in this field, but I have already been touched by the passion and the excellent works of the predecessors. I'm really excited to work for a beautiful future for people with epilepsy in Taiwan with them. To sum up, today I consider myself the luckiest man on the surface of the earth to meet epilepsy in my life. It has made me stronger and led me to who I am. Thanks for your attention and hope you have a nice day.
Oh, thank you so much. And the last message there at the end, which is one of resilience and I suppose great tolerance and strength, to say that epilepsy has added to his life. But I suppose being here with you today, I could say the same thing. If it wasn't for my epilepsy, I wouldn't be here today. So I wouldn't have met all of you guys, and I wouldn't have the pleasure of meeting so many other advocates in the area and medical practitioners. So I suppose it is a case again of living well with epilepsy and seeing the benefits and seeing the positives and acknowledging them and being here with friends today. The next video is from a wonderful, wonderful young lady, Valentina Kahn. I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly now, I apologize if it's incorrect. And she has been waiting for her video, and I'm conscious that there are different time zones across the world. So Valentina, we would like to commend you and thank you very much for your video. It was really inspiring, and again, I'm a little bit lost for words because the videos have been such a high standard, and the communication, the effective communication and the advocacy is visible in the videos. So without further ado, we're going to play Valentina's video because I know she's looking forward to it and we're all thrilled to see it. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Valentina Kahn. I am from Chile, and today I will be presenting my story. But first, I want to thank the International Bureau of Epilepsy for giving me this award and the Chilean League Against Epilepsy for nominating me. And also I would like to take a moment to thank my mom, Rosa, my dad, Victor, my sisters, Daniela and Sofia, my grandparents, my fiance, and my neurologist, because I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you. So thank you for all the support. Now, I would like to tell you how I got to where I am now. When I was a child, I had a rare kind of epilepsy with an abnormal encephalogram, and I used to have seizures very often, sometimes many in the same day. It started when I was around 6 years old. I remember going very often to the neurologist, having to take different tests, taking tons of different medications, feeling sleepy, and not being able to go to school. At the beginning, I had so many seizures that I needed to wear a helmet to protect my head, and I hated it because it made me feel different. I also remember how frustrating it was not being able to do the same things that my peers did. For example, once I started attending to school again, I couldn't go to swimming lessons because it was not safe for me. After a couple of years, trying different combinations of medications, reviewing all possible treatment approaches, which even included going abroad, and with the support of my family and my neurologist, I started to have less seizures, until the point I did not have seizures at all. It was a long process in which I could slowly come back to school and started having a more normal routine with less medical appointments and more social activities. Fortunately, my epilepsy did not affect my cognitive nor my motor development, and I managed to be the first in my class during secondary school and to make some very good friends. By the time I turned 18, I was without medications and seizure-free, which was kind of a miracle considering the nature of my epilepsy. The experience during my childhood paved my path towards becoming a professional who could help children with motor problems due to neurological causes, a physiotherapist. I have been working as a neuropediatric physiotherapist for more than 7 years, and I'm really passionate about it. It is very fulfilling to help children and adolescents to improve their skills and quality of life. Every patient, every child needs a different approach, different exercises, and different techniques. Notwithstanding the fact that I have taken several courses about neurorehabilitation, I wanted to keep learning and developing my career. So I studied a master's degree in clinical neuroscience at University College London. I got distinction, which makes me feel very proud considering that it was a challenge to achieve in such a prestigious university during the pandemic situation. I have always felt very grateful for all the support that I received from the Chilean League Against Epilepsy during the years that I was unwell. To try to contribute back, in 2019, I created and coordinated a physiotherapy voluntary project at the Chilean League Against Epilepsy. It helps to improve the quality of life of children with motor impairments due to epilepsy. Before I finish, I want to give you a message of hope. I imagine that some of you maybe have epilepsy or that are parents of children with epilepsy, and I want to tell you that things can get better. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you, Valentina. Valentina was our final award recipient today, and we're delighted that so many of the winners from around the world could attend and could drop in. I know the time differences can be quite hard, but we're very grateful for everyone who came today to support and to attend. And for all the countries who have winners in them, they're truly blessed, and we're really, really glad that they have taken up the baton to make epilepsy their cause and their ambition. The next item on the agenda is for me to do a presentation in relation to the Global Youth Team, and it is going to take the form of a PowerPoint presentation, which I hope you're going to enjoy. It's not as formal as some of the earlier presentations, so I'm just forewarning everyone here. And I hope that that is perfect. Okay, I think it's showing now. Just to begin with, the IBE youth team, myself and Scarlett are the chairs for this year. I'm from Ireland and Scarlett is from Australia. She lives and works in Melbourne, but she's originally from Tasmania. And again, we've had a very enjoyable experience as chairs of the IBE youth team. A lot of the work that we have done is very much about supporting other young people around the world through social media, through sharing events, and also through educating and training where we can. The year so far has been very enjoyable and really exciting for us, and we've really learned a lot. And as you can see from some of the videos today, we have no shortage of valuable young talent around the world. This is a photograph from a Hear My Story workshop in Dublin. For some reason it's a bit fuzzy, but this was my first introduction to the IBE. So I didn't even know the IBE existed until I was sent a form to say, would you go to this workshop and maybe you have something you can contribute, maybe you can tell them your own story and learn how to tell your story as a person with epilepsy. And as you can see from the great crowd of people that were there, we had great fun over that weekend, and it was very, very enjoyable for everyone who took part. And I suppose one message that comes from it is, you know, we need to enjoy practicing, I suppose, enjoying the good and appreciating the difficulty and kind of living for now. And that weekend, a lot of people talked about their epilepsy, their resilience, their struggles, and the knowledge as well that, you know, they're not, the chances are they're not going to wake up one day and the epilepsy may be gone completely, or they may not have seizures for a few years and then they may have seizures. So living with a condition like that and the mental impact on people was something we spent a lot of the weekend talking about. And as well, the stigma. I did not realize, being from my own country, the stigma in other countries and the difficulties some people faced accessing services, accessing employment, accessing state supports for education. It was quite worrying that some people had been denied an education because of their epilepsy and their seizures in the classroom. They were being told to go home. So it has been very educational. This is a photograph of a drawing that was done over the weekend, and I've often took great inspiration from it. One of the themes that came through was this idea of fighting and winning, and the idea of small victories for people with epilepsy. So a good night's sleep, a sleep without seizures, or perhaps losing weight and feeling a bit better. I know the medication as well can cause weight gain, and that's something that people do struggle with. The idea of believing in yourself was something that we left with, and also to love yourself and to care for others with epilepsy. So that idea of remembering you're the most important person in the room. And I think sometimes we forget that. Sometimes when people with epilepsy talk about their epilepsy, they talk about the doctor or they talk about the consultant. The consultant says this, the nurse says that, the doctor said this. It doesn't matter what they say. You're living with epilepsy. You know your epilepsy, you know your own body. And that idea of believing in yourself and loving and caring for yourself and for others with epilepsy is so important. If a medication isn't working for you, it's not working for you. And you have to believe in yourself and again, use your voice to say, I don't think this is working for me. Can we try something else? Is there another option for me? What is your thinking? And again, having the bravery to face the uncertainty and the bravery to say, listen now, this is my epilepsy. And I'm telling you, taking that tablet before I go to bed has led to more seizures. Or maybe I need to change my diet. Is my diet impacting on my epilepsy? Is my blood sugar level impacting on my epilepsy? You know, I usually have a seizure if I skip lunch. Are there other issues there? And the courage to realize that you might need different help. You might need to go see a dietitian or a nutritionist, or maybe you might need to go see somebody who's a little different. And we talked a lot about that as well over the weekend, because the idea of having the courage to say, I don't know if you're the doctor for me, actually. I understand you're a neurologist and I respect you and I get it. You're a doctor. It's great, you know, but maybe I need to go get a second opinion, or maybe there's something else that might be work a bit better for me. I don't know. But I think for me, in my country, there is that option to look for somewhere else to speak to somebody and to get more information. It's not always an option in other countries, and I accept that. But again, living and making plans when you have epilepsy, and again, hoping for the best. And I would say that today as well, you see that with the women with pregnancy work that that was done in the survey. Most women are hoping for the best and they're making plans, and the importance of making those plans and living your life to the full and realizing what you can do and realizing your potential. And the one good thing that did come out of the survey actually was some women sharing their story and giving other women hope and saying to them, you know, I was worried as well, but I went ahead with it and I made the plans and I talked to people and I talked to the nurse and I talked to the midwife and I talked to my GP, and we all sat down and we made a plan, and it's going to be okay. So again, that idea of not letting epilepsy fill you with dread, and the idea of living and making the best of what you have. Faith and strength was put down on the list, and it was a funny topic even when we do talk about it now, because the strength, as you can see today, is visible in some young people with epilepsy, but it's very hard to be strong all the time. And epilepsy can knock the wind out of you. You can have bad days and you can feel very overwhelmed and very stressed. But to have faith in yourself and in others to support you, and we've seen that again today, where family members and friends support people and hold people up with their epilepsy and with the struggles. The voice of younger people. So is there anyone listening? Which is what young people sometimes say to me. They say to me, why would I bother? They don't listen to me. The doctor always talks to my mother. He doesn't even look at me anymore. It's another prescription. It's just a pen and paper, not paying attention. So after family members who've been living with them, I suppose, who do you want to talk to? Are people in your family engaging with your epilepsy? Do you need to give them some education and support? And I would say in my family, we had to do that. I'm the eldest of 5. And for my baby brother, it was very frightening. He was very upset the first time he saw me have a seizure. And he was very angry with me. Kept saying to me, why did you do it? Why did you do this to me? Why did you have to have a seizure when I was here on my own with you? Again, communicating with people effectively and talking to people about this is the best way forward. And I would say that the peer support we've heard about today is vital, because you are very much alone with epilepsy, and it can be very isolating. So I would say, just because you might be alone in your house with epilepsy, or you might be alone in your workplace, other people don't have epilepsy, there's no need for you to be lonely. You can reach out for all sorts of support. So whether it is online, or whether it is through a phone service, or whether it's through emailing someone like the IBE youth team on Facebook, and we do get a lot of messages from people telling us their stories and telling us how they're feeling. You don't need to be lonely, because we've all been there and we all know how lonely and isolating epilepsy can be. So we know epilepsy is not easy, and it's not easy to explain it, but acceptance can help. And I know it's difficult if you haven't reached that point, and I totally understand that. I was in my mid to late 20s by the time I was willing to go and share my story and discuss it with everyone. I had epilepsy since I was a child, and my mother's view on the whole thing was, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Nobody needs to know. We're going to take care of you. It's going to be fine. She was worried about the stigma. She was worried I'd be discriminated against. She was worried that I wouldn't get opportunities because of my epilepsy. And that was her as a mother, to try and protect me from other people and their bias and their prejudice. So, again, I would say acceptance can give you some sort of relief and empowerment to say, listen, I have epilepsy. This is my epilepsy. And I know what's best for me. And I know that, I can't stay up that late. I have to go to bed now. I'm really sorry. I need a good night's sleep. I hope you have a very fun evening, and I will see you in the morning at 7 or 8 o'clock, and that's when I'll be getting up, and I'll be doing everything I need to do for me to take care of yourself. That was a point that I often put in, which is that most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. So sometimes when I speak in public, I very often see the doctors and medical professionals making notes, because they want to reply to some of the points I make, because they feel they're not really listening to me. They're just thinking they need to defend themselves. But for anyone listening today, you don't need to defend yourselves. I just want to give a view for young people as a young person, and also based on what I've seen so far this year with the IBE youth team and what we've engaged in as a team. So that's the aim of today for me, is to give a voice to all the people who can't be here, but who do deserve to be heard. Again, what does advocacy look like is an interesting question. And I think effective communication with stakeholders has been already raised today. I would say to any of the young people here today that if you can engage with the stakeholders in transport, in education, in health, community partners, seek invitations and accept invitations to engage. And we saw that with some of the winners there today. The gentleman from Taiwan, he undertook to go speak at his local parliament. For Bright, he undertook, an innovative idea to invent something. So entrepreneurial and engaging. And again, Cassidy, who's here today, taking an opportunity to spread Purple Day around the world. So taking an opportunity, standing up and speaking up. People are doing this everywhere. It doesn't have to be international or national. It could just be local. It could be in your own community, in your own school, in your own household, in your own community, in your own family. Taking the opportunity to stand up and speak up and say, listen, I don't like the way you're talking about my epilepsy. I don't like the way you're labeling me or limiting me. I really want you to see me as a person. Epilepsy is a part of me, but it doesn't need to define me. I can do great things. This is my life. I will do great things with it. So as a stakeholder, remember, you are a stakeholder. You are valuable. You're not just a patient. You're a sister, your brother, a neighbor, you're a friend. The doctors can't do the research without the people with epilepsy. So we are important and we contribute. And that's also part of it, And I would say to all the young people out there, if you don't agree with me, don't agree with me. I don't really care. But as long as you use your voice and you discuss and you give us your opinions and give us, we want to hear from you. And we really do. Because I think the world, we want to change the world for young people with epilepsy. Right here today, there's going to be babies born in hospitals, and I was a premature baby born 2 months early, and they reckon that's the reason for my epilepsy, because one side of my brain is not really well formed, basically. Structurally damaged and physically damaged, and it's parts of it don't light up at all, which is interesting to see on a scan, but again, not completely relevant to my life, and in some ways, those babies being born today and young people, we need to kind of clear the path for them. They need to be able to get support and assistance when they walk out into the world. I threw this pictures in here because you can see the one at the bottom is my family, my crazy family. And I'm very lucky because I got great love and support with my epilepsy. And in our family, because we're Irish, we like to joke about things and make fun of things. And they would often make fun of it. And it was just a way of coping with it because they couldn't change it. So it was a way of joking and having great fun and great enjoyment in our house. Another picture is 2 friends of mine from school. I was a teenager when they found out I had epilepsy. I was only 11 and a half, 12, and they have been friends of mine ever since. And they're the first people I told about my epilepsy outside of my family. And I suppose it's just evidence that you can tell people and they will stick around. So they've stuck around for a very long time. And another picture there is with myself and the local epilepsy support worker with Epilepsy Ireland, Edel. We do a lot of work in my own local area, and we've had great success with the local groups and the meetings, and it's been very enjoyable. So I would say that, you make friends everywhere, you keep friends, and also that your family, if they're supportive, it's great, but if they're not supportive, do reach out and get support somewhere else. I would really encourage that, because we've heard an awful lot from young people where the stigma is actually in their own house and in their own home with their parents or with their siblings. So I think that's one of the key messages we wanted to get out today. The stigma is something that we need to discuss, and I think, the barriers to employment, social interaction, education, traveling and transportation, the negative impact of the recognition of a disability, which I would say that has definitely, young people have said, epilepsy is a disability. Under the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, epilepsy is a disability. And I know some people don't want to hear that, and they don't want to think of themselves as a person with disabilities. or person with a disability, but I would say that it is a personal choice to focus on your abilities. And I think we saw that today with the Golden Lights. They focus on their abilities and what they can do. So how do we break down the stigma? Communication and education. That's how you do it. And we need to start working on it together, because one person isn't enough. We need to do this as a group. The functions of communication, again, the reason I threw this in was because we got a presentation earlier on the funding, and the idea of communication, again, it's not just about, you know, giving information or maybe expressing your emotions or your feelings on things, but hopefully to motivate people to give contributions, give donations to support, and also in some ways communicating on your epilepsy and educating other people on your epilepsy is a way of gaining control of it, because you don't know when you're going to have a seizure, but you can choose to sit down and tell people about your epilepsy and share your story. And by doing that, you take back control. You create a story and you get to actually control it, which is absolutely what you want. It's what everybody wants, that bit of control that we don't get when you have a tonic-clonic seizure on the bus, or when you collapse on the train, or when you're feeling unwell during an exam and you end up on the floor banging your head off the side of the table. Communication is a way of gaining control, and telling your story is a good way of gaining control, and you will feel better afterwards. And even if you do transfer a bit of emotion, as I sometimes do when I talk about these things, I do get upset, because it is not the easiest condition to live with, and you are living with it. And that's the most important thing, and that you learn to thrive with it as well. But communication is very important for you and for society. And that's how we break down stigma. We break down stigma by giving people information, by giving them that information on epilepsy and what to do, and giving them the power and the strength to support you and to put you in the recovery position if you're after having a seizure, or how to manage your head and mind your head and make sure that, you know, if you start having one or two after the other, that they call an ambulance for you, and that they realize that, you know, maybe the Bocomidaz that they gave you in the side of your mouth isn't working so well in with gum line. It's not working so well now. It's not as effective as it was 3 weeks ago, and they do need to bring you to hospital, or if the person gets injured. So again, communication for people with epilepsy is vital, absolutely vital. Advocacy takes many forms, and I would say that we've seen some of them today, but with the IBE youth team, we've been focusing on different types of campaigns. So writing campaigns, using petitions, writing to representatives in parliaments, and engaging with radio stations regionally, nationally, internationally. What we've been focusing on so far actually is supporting people to do this, and providing some online training as well around communications and podcasting to support them. Change is occurring due to advocacy, and we can see that even in my own country and in other countries where they're engaging now. They're looking for groups to come forward and to speak on International Epilepsy Day, and even on Purple Day. They want to hear from people with epilepsy, and they want to appreciate their stories and to take account of them. So the IBE youth team is doing its best to support individuals and groups from around the world who have got in contact with us and we've been in contact with to run some of their campaigns. And some of the groups actually have got some funding as a result of some of their plans and preparations. So it is great to see it. When people have a good idea, there is always the possibility of funding. And we would say that as well. That's been our experience so far. The journey continues. So for more people now are in university who have epilepsy, and we saw that in the survey results that Gus mentioned at the beginning. A lot of the women that were surveyed actually had been to university or had been at that level. So there seemed to be a very high level of education, and you see from the Golden Light recipients that we're here today, very well educated people, and it's great to see that level of education and the level of attainment. And I think there does need to be recognition for that and support at third level. Working from home as well is benefiting people with epilepsy, and we've seen that through the people who've contacted us. They would like to see working at home continue, and they would like to see the supports from the government to be sustained. Studying from home as well is becoming more common and provides vital support. I do know in my own city of Galway, there was a motion before the Students' Union. A young woman put forward a motion to say that she wanted to continue studying online, and she is a person with epilepsy. And she made forward the argument that students with disabilities also have rights, and they have rights to be able to watch back a lecture or listen back to it. And if you have a seizure in the morning time, maybe you'll be listening back to it in the afternoon. Again, that would provide a support for young people with epilepsy, and it is ideal to do it now when people are using Zoom and using other forms of technology. Stress management is also improving, and there's more mental health supports. And we saw today one of our winners is also a mental health advocate, Bright. And again, stress management is very important for people with epilepsy. Stress is a trigger for every person I've ever met with epilepsy. Stress is a trigger, and it's very important that we try our best to support that and support that issue. And very often it's missing when people discuss epilepsy, but the level of mental health issue, the level of depression and anxiety is quite high, and social anxiety is becoming more of an issue now. And for people with epilepsy, it would be quite common. They don't want to go to a concert, they don't want to go to different social events because they're worried if they collapse and have a seizure, what will happen. And that level of social anxiety as well is going to be discussed later, I think, as part of the IBE day, and the issues facing people mentally. Diet and the link with seizures, it's clearly evidenced already in studies, and a lot of the research is continuing with some of this. And again, work with support dogs, technology, watches, implant devices, and also, as we heard from Bright, I suppose different apps that could be used. There's also an increase in genetic screening that's happening, which is very interesting. And again, it's great to hear from people who are getting genetic screening done with epilepsy, and to see if there is a link there somewhere that maybe they can do something about. And as was discussed this morning, to try and prevent some forms of epilepsy again. The future work of the IBE team, just to wrap up, we're looking at more online campaigns, more online workshops, and engaging in the post-COVID supports and policy initiatives. It's going to be a fight after COVID, because there's definitely going to be a fight for resources, and neurologists are already completely overwhelmed. So if long COVID means more neurological services, we're going to need to fight to try and make sure that people with epilepsy are still getting access to services. We'd like to work on more regional campaigns with women in epilepsy, adults with epilepsy in education and employment. That would definitely be an ambition of my own, because I would love to see more people with epilepsy in employment. It helps with mental health, it helps with social isolation that they're suffering, and also to grow their network and hopefully progress as people, you know, and that would be the hope. I would say no active kindness, small, so be kind to me on this, because I've actually done up a feedback form, and I would like some feedback from the people who are here today, to see if you'd just fill in the feedback form and maybe give us some ideas on what you would like to see us do as well, just to make the most of this opportunity. And again, I suppose it's developmental feedback, so we're looking for feedback to try and develop the IBE youth team, make the best it can be. And now, in the interest of time, I'm finishing, I think, just about on time. And I believe we're moving to a question and answer session. Okay, and I understand that Cassidy is going to join me, I think, for the question and answer session.
Hi. Hi, sorry.
How are you doing, Cassidy? I'm sorry about the name thing earlier.
Oh, that's okay. It happens all the time. I'm honestly okay with it.
So tell us, what news from Canada? How are you getting on?
Pardon?
How are things in Canada?
They're good. It seems to be going along pretty good overall, I guess. Trying to stay busy but stay safe.
How are the plans for Purple Day 2021 going? Or 2022, sorry, 2022.
2022. Well, we have plans to do the annual Purple Day Gala in Halifax. We are trying to we're doing the Blue Nose this year. There's the Culinary Showdown in Ontario. There's a lot of different events. They're all going on and they're all coming along really well. We're trying to work more with different organizations around the world and around different parts of Canada. Trying to branch out more and outreach to more resources and more organizations to help spread the word better.
Well, that's great. I understand that there are some other Golden Light recipients there. I've been reliably informed that there are some more people there. So
definitely, I'd definitely love to hear other people's ideas and plans too. It's always great hearing what other people have in store. And
yeah, it would be great. Yeah, hold on. Someone else there has their hand raised.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Right. The joys of Zoom. I'm trying to unmute somebody and I can't do it. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Tim? Is it?
Oh, hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
How are you getting on today? What did you think of the session?
I love the session. Actually, this is my first time joining the IBE session. Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, we're listening. So do you have a question for the panelists or do you want to just congratulate them or?
I mean, I'm very amazed with all the awardees, their sharings. It's very moving and touching. And what you shared just now, it spoke directly to my heart. And I want to congratulate everyone for your hard work and effort. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's truly amazing. They really are truly brilliant. If we only had world leaders like them now, we'd be away with it. But is there anything in particular you'd like to see happen for young people with epilepsy? Is there anything you're thinking we need to do?
I think more outreaching, especially for advocating for epilepsy is not a disease, but rather something like what the last Golden Light Awardee share, to install more resilience, to be aware and not to be part of like the dual identity part, the one that he shared. I think that's very awesome in terms of bringing a whole different concept of how you view seizure, and ultimately seizure freedom is not just medication itself, but entire being. I think that's a very rare goal to achieve.
It is a very rare goal to achieve. I'd agree with you. We have some more of the winners here. We have Bright. How you doing, Bright?
I'm perfectly well, thank you very much. How are you?
Good. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's indeed an honor.
And let us know with the app that you were developing, is it nearly finished, or what stage are you at?
The application is nearly finished. It's only that I haven't put it on any platform where somebody can download it. But currently, the version that is to run on Android devices is at a point where people can actually interact, share their questions, and also respond to questions that people are asking on the platform. People can also utilize the panic mode on the application, which basically allows them to give instructions to the general public around them. If you have a seizure, say you're walking in the road and you have a seizure, the panic mode will allow you to give instructions to the people around you. So those are working, and by next week I should have more of it running and have it downloadable.
Oh, great. We have some more of the winners here. Valentina?
Hi.
thanks to the IBE and to you, Lorraine, for hosting this session, and also to the IBE for organizing everything. I was listening to the previous session, and it's just so inspiring to listen all the speakers, and now even more the golden lights. And I don't know, just a suggestion, as we are not able to meet in person right now, and we are doing this virtually. I don't know if it's possible that we can turn our cameras on. I mean, the golden lights that want, so we can see our faces and try to do it more like in person.
Yeah, turn on your camera if you want. Okay, we can see you, Valentina.
I don't know if maybe more of the all the Golden Light Awards also want to turn their cameras, so we.
Yeah, it would be nice to get a photograph actually, if we could.
Yeah, I'm just getting ready. I actually have a number of broken bones at the minute because of seizures, so I'm just getting into a comfortable position.
God, Oliver.
I've broken my rib cage.
Oh, I cracked a rib. I cracked a rib 2 days ago. Yeah, I know the pain.
Yeah, I have one cracked and one broken. It's just a pain, to be honest.
God, I haven't broken one now for a while, but the bruised one actually was killing me yesterday. But
Well,
yeah.
you know what's funny about epilepsy is I actually broke them in April and they healed in July, and then I had more seizures and I broke them again.
Oh, the joys. Yeah, yeah. Well, the doctor actually tried to blame me because he said you're sleeping on your stomach, and I had my hand inside, and he reckons I broke the rib because I had my hand underneath me and I was sleeping. So he tried to blame me.
I turn every few weeks on my stomach during my sleep and I wake up very uncomfortable. So I did that the other night. So this morning, I think I did it again. I just woke up sort of like, oh, must have rolled on my stomach during my sleep.
Well, I just got a question in there. Elizabeth's messaged me to say there's a question from Jani for all of you. How do you encourage young people with epilepsy during the pandemic, especially with the increase in stress and depression? It's a good question. Any thoughts? How you doing, Vinny? We can see Vinny and we can see Alison and Chou and Cassidy. I'm trying to see everyone on the screen. It would be great if we could get a photo of you, actually. So any thoughts, guys? How do we deal with depression and stress during the pandemic?
Staying active, definitely exercising, and trying to talk to as many people as possible. I found early in the pandemic it was difficult to actually talk to people in person, and I just found after a while that the online was kind of a bit draining. So just actually remembering to actually go outside and run and walk and seek activity was one of the best ways for me personally.
I agree, definitely staying active, trying to stay in touch with people and stay connected. Just remember to do stuff that you know you enjoy and try new things even that you'd always want to do. It's a good time to learn new skills and new little hobbies.
Well, it's very good advice. How you doing, Alison? I put her on the spot. You can see people on the screen. Hi, Vinny. How you doing?
I'm good.
How are things in New Delhi?
Yeah, things are good here. So far, so good.
Oh, and how is the running? Are you still running?
Yeah, running is going on good.
Well, hopefully we'll see you soon. If you're going into if you're running or anything, or you're fundraising, make sure you include us on your social media and we'll share it, okay?
Definitely.
For the child fund or any of that, please do share it. We'd love to support.
Definitely. I will do that.
I saw our friend from Iran, Mohsen, you're there. Hello? Oh, I don't know if he can hear us. We've got another question here. Somebody in Swaziland, the conference has been an eye-opener. Can we elaborate on what is meant, epilepsy being a chronic illness? That's from Banelli Gamedza in Swaziland. there's actually a medical definition for chronic illness. So I think the reason epilepsy falls into it is because epilepsy is something that usually is sustained over time. So once it goes over a certain time period, it's considered chronic. That's my understanding anyway, medically, because my father honestly believes we're going to find a cure someday, but we're not there yet. But you know, you never know. I am an optimist as well. So there may be a time when it's not so chronic and we can cure it. And as we saw this morning, some of the epilepsy can be cured from babies and birth if it's possible. So definitely something worth considering. Are there any other, I'm trying to see if I can see any more winners there on the screen. Hi Mohsen, I can see you now. Can you hear us? Ooh, the audio isn't working so good. We can't hear you. Okay, well, I'm gonna try and ask Elizabeth, is it possible for you to get a group photo of everyone who has their cameras on? Putting poor Elizabeth on spot. Yes, Elizabeth has taken a photo of all of us. Thank you, Elizabeth. She is the IT genius behind the scenes because bright, I'm not that technologically gifted. I had a teenager set up my computer for me. So yeah, a 14-year-old is to thank. Thank you so much for coming, and please continue the work and please stay in touch with us and use the social media and use the IBE channels to engage with us, and we would love to support. And personally, I'd love to come visit all your countries. So now that I know you're there, you can come visit us as well. We'd be delighted to see you in Ireland. And
you're more than welcome.
Really,
more than welcome. We'd love to see you. The land of 1,000 welcomes is waiting for you. And thank you so much. I had the best session of the day, without a doubt. It was truly inspiring. I'm uplifted. So thank you so much, and continue the great work. It's been truly inspirational. And with that, I'm going to draw the session to a close and hand back over to, is it Anne or Gus? Or it's Gus, I think.
Thank you all again. You guys were all amazing.